Welcome back to Three Up, Three Downs, AL West Division breakdowns. We finished up with the most recent, the World Series champs, the Houston Astros. But let's talk about the young guns in the division, the team that broke the playoff drought last season, the Seattle Mariners, led by the Rookie of the Year last year, Julio Rodriguez, who returns at age 22, ready to prove the league that he is the next superstar. You've got Colton Wong, who leads off this lineup, followed by Ty France, Teoscar Hernandez, a new addition to this lineup, brought in from Toronto. And then we go into Alex's number one stud, his homeboy, Eugenio Suarez, a guy that I actually do think Alex has a nice little stat line for us today, believe it or not. Followed by the heroics, the man that sent him to the playoffs, Cal Raleigh, our favorite former rookie, Jared Kelenic, our former DH and left fielder at some points in Chicago, A.J. Pollock, followed lastly by J.P. Crawford. That is what this Mariners lineup looks like. You got Tommy LaStella, an infield utility guy on the bench. Same with Sam Haggerty. What do you think of this projected lineup for the Seattle Mariners?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, there's some big additions here. So Colton Wong, they sign, or I think they trade for actually. Then you have Teoscar Hernandez, who was a big addition. They trade Eric Swanson, who became, it looks like, what seemingly is a top-end like setup man to get Teoscar Hernandez, a big bat coming over from Toronto.
Yep.
A.J. Pollock in the free agent market. A.J. Pollock probably past his prime, 35 now, but why not? It's a good flyer, I think.
And it's a guy who's won a World Series. A little experience for that roster.
Totally. And Colton Wong, again, a guy who's been in a lot of playoff games. I think he's a good leadoff hitter. He's not an all-star by any means, but he's a good player. Teoscar Hernandez is a big addition. This adds a lot more power to this lineup. And this lineup has kind of a good balance to begin with. I mean, these key pieces of Julio, Ty France, Eugenio Suarez, and Cal Raleigh are really good. And even J.P. Crawford, he's going to hit ninth for this team, and that's kind of his role, but he's a really good nine hitter. Can run the base as well. But yeah, Eugenio Suarez, the stat that I found today, which I thought was very interesting. Last season I said he was the cheapest 30 home runs you can buy, and I still believe that. Since 2018, he has the second most home runs in the Major League Baseball behind Aaron Judge and ahead of everyone else who is not Aaron Judge. A guy who is sneakingly going to hit 300-plus homers, but seemingly does not get the hype that he deserves for that. Having a good World Baseball Classic with Venezuela right now, which you always love to see. One of those countries. I mean, Venezuela is a baseball country, but not the Dominican or something. So Eugenio is shining. I really like the lineup. I think there's a lot there. If Julio takes another step, I mean, he's kind of one-man offense, and they've built really well around him. It's exciting. And Cal Raleigh, another guy who could take a step. Jared Kelenic, if he gets going, it's dangerous. Like, there's a lot of impact in this lineup, and I really like it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think if you could kind of get that step forward from Jared Kelenic, you've got a solid lineup that has protection throughout the nine. The fact is, I think J.P. Crawford was like their leadoff last year. He's been moved to the ninth hole because they brought in a guy like Colton Wong from St. Louis. I don't know. I mean, you got two guys. We use Fangraphs for our projections. We've got two guys on the roster that are projected 30 home runs, 60 between two guys. That's power numbers, and that's scoring runs. The fact is they've got some power on this roster. Let's look at the rotation and the bullpen. They bolstered that ace role by bringing in Luis Castillo from the Reds during the deadline last season, followed by a guy who took a big step as a rookie last year, Logan Gilbert, a young arm drafted in the first round from the Seattle organization, took some good steps in the right direction. Former Cy Young winner Robbie Ray, George Kirby, and Marco Gonzalez. That lines out the starting rotation, followed by a bullpen that should have Paul Soulard closing the role, followed by Andres Munoz, Diego Castillo, Matt Brash, Penn Murphy, Trevor Gott, Matt Festa, and Chris Flexen. Atop of the bullpen, not a bad few. Diego Castillo, a very reliable reliever, and then Paul Seward, a guy that could get you at least 20 saves. You always love to have that in your bag. A starting rotation that I honestly love the top three. I think if Logan Gilbert continues in the step of development that he showed last year with some serious action from the right side of the from the mound, I think you've got a great 1-2-3 punch. I don't know enough about Marco Gonzalez to really go in depth on him, as he's someone that they've projected about a 4.5 ERA. So, a guy that might eat up innings for you, but maybe giving up the runs. But we'll see what happens. What do you got on this rotation and bullpen, Alex?
I mean, he's really good. And for Marco Gonzalez, he was the number one for this team not too long ago. He's seemingly been the staple of this rotation since King Felix left, which wasn't really a good thing. But now where he's kind of slotted to this 4th, 5th role, he'll be good. Luis Castillo, I think everybody knows what he's going to bring. Logan Gilbert looking to take another step. Robbie Ray is an interesting one. I would expect him to have a good season, but it wasn't the Cy Young season that they were hoping for.
No,
because they paid him a lot.
Him.
They paid him a lot, and they brought him in to be a very good starter. And he's been good, but there's still some blow up games in there, which is fine if you're covering it up with other good games. The guy I want to key in on here is George Kirby, a rookie last year. He's got a lot of stuff, just like a ton of stuff that you watch on those highlight clips of baseball players. So that's exciting there. It's about him developing a little bit more and becoming a more clean pitcher, really. And not just throwing hard, which is a big transition for a lot of guys who come up with young stuff. But I'm looking for him to take a big step, and I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the year, if things fall right for him, he's the number 2 going into the playoffs for this team. I think he has that type of stuff. I doubt
Kirby.
it. George Kirby.
Over a Cy Young winner, over a guy who took some serious steps. I like it. I mean, you've got 3 out of the 5 guys that are all first-round picks. Former first-round picks. So I mean, it's talent. He's
just got stuff.
There's no question about it. I'm curious to see if that does come to fruition. But I agree. Continue.
Yeah, I mean, Fangraphs is projecting him for a 3.57 ERA, and I think they're always conservative on their predictions. They don't really project 40 homers. They don't really project sub-3 ERAs. Luis Castillo's at a 3.16, but it's Luis Castillo, right? One of the aces of the league. I think he has a chance to make a jump, and it's about whether that happens or not. And I don't know. He's on the younger end, so sometimes you see teams slow down the pitch count, but I don't think so. I think he pitched enough last year. I don't really know. If you're a Mariners fan and you know what his pitch count limit is, I don't know if there is one, but he's seemingly in that era. I really like his stuff. I think he has potential to be really good. Excited to watch him play.
Absolutely. It is a strong rotation. Is it a team that can compete with that Houston Astros and take the crown? We'll find out. If you had to pick an X factor from this lineup, who would it be?
Yeah, so I'm going to go for my X factor. I think Jared Kelenic. I'm going to go with him because there's other ones.
You've been on him for a long time. I understand it.
It's just the upside there and why he was so hyped up when he got brought up to the major leagues. But he has potential to be an all-star and be like a Julio type guy. He's not going to be Julio at this point. I think that would be a shocking transition, but he's a guy who brings all the tools, right? He can hit, he can run, he can field. He's got power. There's, again, a reason he was a top-tier prospect, a blue-chip prospect. If he gets going, all of a sudden you have a lineup that is based around 2 young superstars and filled in with a lot of other good talent, right? Eugenio Suarez and Teoscar Hernandez shine a lot more when they're following up two young guns. And if he does, he's going to be batting leadoff or second with Julio right there. Ty France, Teoscar, Eugenio, all of a sudden it's kind of a little murderer's row there, So I'm going to go with Jared Kelenic. There's a lot of guys, but this roster is really good.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I'm going to take the former Cy Young winner, Robbie Ray. I need a bounce back here. I think he should easily be the number 2 pitcher on this team, if not the ace, taking it from Luis Castillo. But that's going to need some elite pitching from Robbie, which we have seen before north of the border when he was in Toronto. But Robbie, I need you to show you still got the stuff at age 32 at this point, but we'll see what happens with the Seattle Mariners. Where do you see him finishing in the AL West?
Yeah, so I think the AL West got a lot better. Obviously, the Angels were pretty active in the offseason. The Rangers had another active offseason like they do right now. I just think this team is – I like bringing back the players who are there. I think that is an easier thing to predict on, and I think they made good, smart additions. I think the Teoscar trade was great because I think the bullpen is a strength. I think they were able to lose Eric Swanson and not really have – obviously you always want bullpen arms, but it was a trade that they were able to do just because of who else is around that bullpen. So I'm going to have him finishing second behind Houston. And I think they actually – it's hard to pick a race with Houston. I think it'll be somewhat close for some of the year, I do think Houston eventually pulls away with it, but I'm gonna go with Seattle finishing second in this, and they're going to be tight in the hunt for a wild card. Wild card's going to be loaded, but I think they're going to get in. I think they're going to get in. And I don't know if I'm making too many predictions of teams getting into the wild card, but I think the AL is speeding up on each other. This is an easier division for them to find a way in.
Yeah, I mean it's a team that that made the playoffs last year. I think you're spot on. They will give Houston a little bit of a run for their money, but we saw Houston get hot. We saw Houston win the AL pennant, and that was for a reason. It's because it is a stacked lineup, as we talked about in our breakdown with the Astros. Do I see them passing them? I don't. Do I see them getting the first wild card spot? I kind of really do. I do think this is a better team than maybe a Tampa. Maybe I think this is a better roster technically than Toronto, but we'll see what happens. Does it beat out a Yankees roster? I also agree, but we'll see. I mean, one team makes the playoff automatically as the divisional winner. That concludes our Seattle Mariners breakdown. Seattle fans, if we missed anything, if you feel like you've got any comments, any critiques, or anything you want to just chat about, feel free to hop in the comments. Give us a like, subscribe, check out the YouTube channel, check out the Instagram page, and we will be moving on to the Los Angeles Angels.